Welcome to this new automotive news video for Tuesday, April 21, 2024. And today we're going to talk about Renault, whose brand new Clio. The Clio 6 is already experiencing its first reliability issue. And you'll see that for now, Renault isn't in a hurry to fix the problem. We'll also talk about Alpine, which is officially ending the sale of its A110 Coupe. It's truly the end of an era and the closing of a chapter. We'll also talk about Hyundai, which unveiled the Ioniq 3 yesterday. It will have the very tough job of competing with the electric Renault 5. We'll discuss BYD, the major Chinese brand seeking to join the European Car Manufacturers Association. These are Tuesday's video topics. I hope you enjoy it and show your support, as usual by supporting my channel for free. To do that, you can leave a like on this video, click the boost button if it shows up for you, subscribe for my upcoming videos, and of course, leave a comment where you share your thoughts on today's news. If you're among the few French who already got their Renault Clio 6, are you happy with it? Have you experienced the issue we'll discuss in today's video? And that's exactly what we're going to start with. Indeed, the Clio 6 is affected by its first reliability issue. Fortunately, it's not a critical defect that prevents you from driving it, but it's a defect that's really expensive and quite burdensome for the first customers of the Clio 6. What is also very burdensome for them is that Renault has known about the problem since at least January 2026. That is, since the first deliveries of the Clio 6. There is still a good chance that they knew about this defect earlier, after all the tests that were conducted in the lab. So now, it's more than 3 months after the release of the Clio 6. And for now, Renault hasn't organized any recall to fix the defect on the Clio 6 models that have already been delivered. Fortunately for Renault, and I also want to say fortunately for the customers, this problem does not affect all versions of the Renault Clio 6. It only affects the E-Tech 160 versions. So let's say the high-end version of the Clio 6 sold, if I'm not mistaken, for more than 24,000 euros, equipped with a 1.8-liter four-cylinder hybrid gasoline engine. So on this car, we're talking about a hybrid system with 2 electric motors, which run on a 1.4 kW battery. It's a self-charging battery. It's a Toyota-style hybrid. Normally, when this car is functioning properly, its electronics control the hybrid system and switch between the combustion engine and electric motor based on speed. What does that mean in practice? It means that when the Clio 6 isn't going fast, mainly in the city, it's supposed to run 80% of the time in full electric mode to reduce fuel consumption. And that's exactly where the problem is. In the vehicle's electronics, which aren't making the switch. In some situations, the Clio 6 uses only its combustion engine, even in the city, which is where it tends to use more fuel. Which explains why in many user reports on social media or on certain specialized websites, you can read about real-world fuel consumption reported by users in the city, around 6.5 to 7 liters per 100 kilometers, rather than around 3.5 to 4 liters as announced by Renault. Because of this bug, fuel consumption in the city is simply doubled. Interestingly enough, in most of the reports mentioning this problem, it's explained that the moment the car started acting up, it was during cold weather. Some people even seem to have noticed a tipping point around 10 to 12 degrees below, which the electronics can't switch to 100% electric mode, while above that, the problem disappears. Which is really a shame, considering that it's precisely in cold weather when temperatures are lower that a gasoline car tends to consume more fuel. As I said, it's not a major defect that stops you from driving. But the car can't achieve the promised average fuel consumption as it is now, especially since Renault has been aware of the problem for months and so far hasn't done much to fix it. There hasn't been any recall to address the issue. They had announced an over-the-air software update, the famous OTA update for February 2026 to debug the software. But this update never came out, and it's also said that Renault may have fixed the problem on the new Clio 6 models, but hasn't offered a corrective solution for the Clio 6s delivered between January and April. So let's hope for Renault and its customers that the brand finds a solution, because problems like this won't improve the Clio 6's reputation or boost sales. Let me remind you that since the beginning of the year in France, sales of the newly released Clio 6 are lower than those of the Clio 5, which actually came out 7 years ago. By the way, since we're talking about Renault and sales, you should know that Alpine, the sports brand of the Renault group, has just officially announced the end of sales for its A110 Coupe. We knew this was going to happen. I even mentioned it to you in a video a few weeks ago when some dealerships started removing it from the list of vehicles you could order. It's now the case for all dealerships in the entire brand. It's official. Alpine is no longer taking any orders for the Alpine A110. From now on, Alpine will just sell off the few new Alpine A100 10S it still has in stock in its parking lots. These stocks should run out quickly since the brand expects it won't have any left to sell after June 2026. So it's the end of an era. Now Alpine is going to become 100% electric, unless it suddenly changes course and decides to offer a new version of one of its future models with a combustion engine, which wouldn't be such a big surprise since we know that its future A110 has a multi-powertrain chassis, so it could potentially be equipped with a combustion engine. In the meantime, you should know that throughout its entire career, from 2017 to 2026, about 25,000 units of the A110 have been sold worldwide, and that since 2025, Alpine has obtained a waiver that allowed it to continue selling it without having to equip it with the latest safety assistance features from the mandatory European Standards Pack GSR2. Alpine didn't want its A110S to be heavier because of the various sensors and new electronic assistance systems. But they also didn't want the prices to skyrocket, as has happened with many other sports cars. A waiver that it was able to obtain in exchange for not selling more than 1,500 units of the A110 per year. That's why last year exactly 1,499 units were registered. As for Hyundai, they revealed the new Ioniq 3 yesterday. It's their new compact car that's meant to compete with the electric Renault 5. We're talking about a car that's 4.16 meters long, 1.80 meters wide, and 1.50 meters high. Overall, it's a bit bigger than the Renault 5 Electric. The entire silhouette, called Aero Hatch, was designed to improve the vehicle's aerodynamics, and therefore its energy consumption and range. I don't know why, but personally it reminds me of the Honda CRX, but updated and a lot bigger, of course. Aesthetically, it takes on some of the traditional elements from other models in the Ioniq range, like the Pixel-style lights. By the way, there's already a sporty version that's been announced, which will have 19-inch wheels, a bigger spoiler, and larger air intakes. Inside, unlike the original concepts, there will indeed be a central screen, which depending on the version, will be either 12.9 or 14.6 inches. It will benefit from the new infotainment system based on Android called Playhouse Connect. It will be compatible with the remote update system, the famous OTA updates we mentioned earlier in this video. Depending on the version, it can be equipped with heated and ventilated seats, and can also be equipped with a Bose audio system. Let's discuss the main issue, which is a major opportunity against the electric Renault 5. Range, batteries, and charging times. Indeed, with the standard battery, that's 147 horsepower, 42.1 kilowatt hours, which are supposed to provide 344 kilometers of range with a fast charging speed of around 100 kilowatts. That's double what the electric Renault 5 provides. And the long-range version's 136 horsepower, 61 kilowatt hours would benefit from 130 kilowatts of fast charging speed and a WLTP range of 496 kilometers. So it's still not huge, it's still not super versatile. But let's say that if Hyundai manages to market it at the target price they've set, which is 28,000 euros for the base version and 32,000 for the long-range version, it becomes a lot more interesting than the R5. First of all, it's more powerful, better performing, and if we compare the standard version to the standard Renault 5 and the long-range version to the long-range version of the R5 in every case, the Hyundai offers more range, several dozen extra kilometers, and much higher charging speeds. So it's a model that ultimately promises to be much more versatile and much less restrictive than the electric Renault 5 now. We'll see about the price. And that's really where everything will be decided. To finish, let's talk about BYD, a huge Chinese brand. It's the #1 brand in the world when it comes to electric car sales. For a little while now, they've been trying to make a name for themselves in Europe. They're already selling some vehicles there that are generally doing well. The increases in BYD's European sales are huge. I'll give a small figure to illustrate my point. In Europe, in January and February 2026, BYD's sales increased by 179% compared to the same period last year. The brand now has almost 2% market share and has surpassed a whole bunch of brands we've known for much longer, like Suzuki, Mazda, or even Tesla. So for now, things are going pretty well for BYD in Europe. The brand is setting up factories all over the place to avoid European tariffs. And now BYD wants to join the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, the well-known ACEA. BYD has just started the process to join it. If they manage to get their application approved, it will simply be the first Chinese brand to join the ACEA. So obviously nothing is certain because for now, several members of the ACEA, meaning several brands if you prefer, have already officially announced that they will refuse BYD's entry. By the way, it's mostly French brands that are refusing its membership, because the German brands are actually in favor since they're trying, in exchange, to regain part of the Chinese market. Still, if BYD managed to join the ACEA, it could influence the decisions of the European Commission regarding the future of the automotive industry. The ACEA is a lobby, an association that is extremely powerful. It's thanks to, or because of, depending on your point of view, this association, the ACEA, that the European Commission has already had to, over the past 2 or 3 years, announce a whole series of measures aimed at making the phase-out of combustion engine vehicles more flexible and less abrupt. And it's also thanks to this ACEA that the European Commission has, for example, delayed the implementation of the Euro 7 standards. If BYD joined the ACEA, it would likely push to accelerate the shift to electric vehicles, given its stronger expertise in this technology compared to European competitors. We'll see what happens. That's all for today's news. Hope you found the video interesting. If that's the case, I count on you to show it by leaving a like, subscribing for upcoming videos, and supporting the channel by clicking the join button below. I'll see you tomorrow for the next one. Bye.